Detective Comics number 24, written by John Layman, art by Jason Fabik. So last issue, we had Batman discovering and truly confirming that Caldwell is Wrath. He launched his attack and started electrocuting cops all over the city, and Alfred may or may not be attacked/dead. Who knows? So we open up with a quick flashback of Caldwell delivering the city with all this high-tech stuff for the police force, and Batman's like, yeah, they thought it was super awesome and cool at the time, but they're not thinking that now, and we see them all being electrocuted. And Gordon's looking on at his cops, seeing them all get shocked, and he's like, oh god, my men, what am I supposed to do? So Batman's flying over the city in his bat jet, and he's talking to Wrath, because Wrath and him has like a communicator thing, and basically Batman is saying, like, I'm going to stop this, Caldwell, and I'm going to stop you. And Caldwell's like, don't call me Caldwell. Dude, I have worked so hard on the Wrath name. Call me Wrath. Come on, seriously. I've always been Wrath underneath. Caldwell was just a mask. This is who I really am. So he throws Alfred down, just knocking him out, seemingly. And then he hops into his own ship, and he's like, you want to go Batjet? All right, let's go Batjet. So at that point, we see Wrath has a super high-powered, like, just beast of a tank airship, and Batman's like, okay, let's run through what we got right now. 90% of the police force is currently incapacitated. 4.5 minutes, they'll be dead, and I'm being chased through the skies by a tank. I've had worse. So he reasons out that Caldwell gave up some maneuverability in order to get all the machines on that ship, so he's able to weave in and out of the buildings of Gotham, and then he manages to activate a self-destruct sequence that gets Wrath stuck in the explosion, while Batman bails out in a much smaller, like, paraglider, basically. And he's like, okay, Wrath's big tank ship is taken care of. I gotta go back to Caldwell because that's where the trigger is, and I can disable all of the vests that are shocking the police. So we see Gordon's being held back by Harvey Bullock, saying like, oh, you can't touch him, Jim, or else you'll be shocked too. So Batman makes his way back to Caldwell's place, shuts off all the vests. Gordon immediately tells over the radio, like, everyone who can hear this, take off the Caldwell tech. It's clearly a bad thing. So Alfred comes to, and he's like, all right, we cool? And Batman's like, yeah, shut it off. He's not going to cause a problem there anymore. However, I do think this is not over for him yet. And Alfred says, I don't think so either. Take a look at this. And he looks at a secret hidden file that is on Caldwell's things of a police case from back in like the 70s or the 80s. Actually, you know what? I guess it would have been late 90s. It says 15-year-old crime photo, but it turns out that the father of Caldwell was a thief who stole a bunch of diamonds, and he was gunned down by police, and the diamonds were not recovered. So Alfred and Batman piece together, okay, he hates the police because the police killed his father, and also they, like, profited off of it. They stole the diamonds because back then the police in Gotham were much more corrupt. And he's like, all right, so what do we do now? And Batman says, well, I'm going to take Caldwell, I'm going to erase it off the map of Gotham, and then I'm going to go after Wrath himself. So a couple hours pass, and then all of a sudden a actual tank just rolls through the streets of Gotham. Wrath is inside. It makes its way up to the 13th precinct, which is apparently the most busy precinct in Gotham. He waits specifically for the transition between shifts where there's going to be the most cops, and then he just starts opening fire on the precinct. And he's like, well, mission accomplished. And he goes out to see all the dead cops, but then eventually Batman shows up in a suit of armor. And he's like, I told them all to evacuate. They're not here. It's just you and me. And Wrath is like, how did you know I was going to be here? And he's like, oh, I found your secret file. This is the police precinct that killed your father. And, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, he basically just toys with Wrath a little bit. And he's like, oh, they murdered him. They killed my father for no reason. So at that point, Batman says, yeah, and you've been trying to murder too. Now it's time for justice. So he starts laying a smackdown on Wrath. Wrath lays smackdown on him until finally they bust outside of the police precinct. And we see that they are surrounded by a bunch of cops who are all the ones going here. And Batman has managed to put a vulnerability into his armor, and he's like, yeah, I can totally kill Wrath right now, or not kill, but take him out. But the police need a win today, so I'm going to let that be a thing. So at that point, Gordon steps up and he's like, Mr. Caldwell, you are under arrest for a lot of stuff. And he's like, Batman couldn't even take me out. What makes you think you can? And he's like, oh, because we've got your equipment. Open fire. And then they blast Caldwell with, I think, his own tank. And Caldwell's like, all right, that hurt a lot, but I'm still standing. And then Batman steps up and he just basically punches him in the face and says, nah, the police took you down today. But like, I finished you off. I want you to really know that. I'm the one who punched you in the face. So he gets arrested. Batman steps up to Gordon and he's like, I can make sure Bruce Wayne pays for building your police precinct again. He's just like, don't bother. We're going to seize all of Caldwell's assets, which is going to be a couple $2 billion. So that's neat. And then Batman goes and starts to walk away. And we see this one cop step up named Wallace. I don't know if he's been around. And he says, Batman, wait up. Here's the thing. You know at the end of Batman Begins, when Gordon says, what about escalation? I truly believe that. I thought that you were only making more crazies in this city, but this crazy was because of the cops. He's our fault. So you saved us from a thing that we did. I guess you can't be all bad. Also, yeah, I had to watch a couple of my buddies get like electrocuted, so that wasn't fun. But thank you, Batman. You're making it better for us out there. So then he ends with the line, if there's going to be some bats in Gotham, maybe that isn't a bad thing. And then we get one page of this kid running down the street, and he's attacked by a swarm of bats and just carried off. So, whatever that's going to be. Finally, we get one last thing where Caldwell is in Blackgate. Gordon's meeting with him, and he says, hey, I've reopened your case. Your father was guilty of stealing diamonds, but like, I'm officially pointing that the cops were not right in what they did. They committed murder. They went above and beyond of their police abilities, and they killed your father without reason. And Caldwell's like, okay, why would you do that? That doesn't make you look any better. It just looks like you can't control your cops. And he's like, it's not about what's right or about what looks good. It's about what's right. It's about justice. And so he walks out. Caldwell goes back to his cell, and he's just like, psh, doesn't even matter. When I get out of here, I'm still going to kill him. I'm just that evil. And then from across the hall, he's like, oh, you hate the guy? Do you also hate Batman? And Caldwell's like, yes, I do. And then we see across the cell is Emperor Penguin, who says, my, then we have quite a bit to discuss. So Emperor Penguin's doing that. I think this all comes together in like Forever Evil Arkham War. Maybe. I don't know. But we'll see. I can't decide if I like or hate his backstory. That is, this whole thing is because his father was gunned down by like corrupt cops. Because on one hand, it makes sense. But on the other hand, it's just so basic that like, I kind of wanted something more to it, you know? Like I wanted something specific to maybe like Gordon or even the cops nowadays. Because like they point out, Gordon has been cleaning up the police system in Gotham over those past 15 years. Like this happened under the previous commissioner's eyes. So I don't know. I'm of two minds about it. I got to say though, I don't think that this really wrapped it up as neat and tidy as they would like, because they did a whole thing where it's like, no, the cops needed this win. But like Batman's still the one who took care of all of it. Like from the beginning to end. I don't feel like they really gave that one to the police. So overall, I think this is probably only like a 6.5. What's really saving it, though, is the art. Jason Fabok looks fantastic the whole way through, as he always does. So, yeah, 6.5 for this. I'm not surprised that Wrath has not really shown up in any major capacity since, because he's just not that compelling of a villain.